Most people believe belly fat is simply the result of eating too much and moving too little. Calories go in, calories fail to come out, and the excess gets stored around the waist. This idea is repeated so often that it feels like unquestionable truth. It has fueled decades of diet culture, shame, and punishment-based fitness. Yet this explanation collapses the moment you look at reality. Millions of people eat very little, train obsessively, and still cannot flatten their stomach. Others eat more freely and stay lean. The problem isn't discipline. The problem is that belly fat is not one thing. There are multiple types of fat in the human body, and they behave in radically different ways. Treating all fat as identical is like treating all fires the same. Some fires need oxygen removed. Others need fuel cut off. Some require containment. Belly fat is especially misunderstood because it can be both visible and invisible at the same time. The fat you can grab, shake, and complain about is not the same fat that damages organs and shortens lifespan. Confusing the two leads people to attack the wrong target. The soft, squishy fat just beneath the skin is called subcutaneous fat. It is the fat most people hate because it affects appearance. It changes how clothes fit and how confident someone feels. Biologically, however, subcutaneous fat is relatively passive. It exists mainly as energy storage. It cushions the body, insulates against cold, and provides a reserve during times of scarcity. In moderate amounts, it is not inherently dangerous. It does not aggressively disrupt hormones or damage organs. The real threat is visceral fat. This fat lives deep inside the abdomen, beneath the muscle wall, packed tightly around vital organs such as the liver, pancreas, and intestines. Visceral fat cannot be pinched, it cannot be grabbed. It cannot be targeted with exercises. And it does not behave like normal fat. Visceral fat acts more like a rogue organ than stored energy. It actively releases inflammatory chemicals directly into the bloodstream, creating systemic damage. This is why some people appear thin yet are metabolically unhealthy. Their arms are lean, their legs are slim, their face looks healthy, but their abdomen protrudes outward and feels firm to the touch. This condition is often described as thin outside, fat inside. Metabolically, it is extremely dangerous. People with high visceral fat face elevated risks of heart disease, fatty liver, insulin resistance, stroke, and type 2 diabetes, sometimes even more so than individuals who appear obese. Visceral fat is biologically active tissue. It secretes inflammatory molecules called cytokines that interfere with insulin signaling. This forces the pancreas to release more insulin to manage blood sugar. Over time, cells become resistant to insulin, blood sugar rises, and fat storage accelerates. This creates a vicious cycle where visceral fat promotes the conditions that cause it to grow even larger. Energy levels drop, hunger increases. Fat loss becomes increasingly difficult. Visceral fat also amplifies stress hormones. Cortisol, the primary stress hormone, signals the body to conserve energy and store fat, especially in the abdominal region. Visceral fat both produces cortisol-related signals and responds aggressively to them. Chronic stress, poor sleep, and extreme dieting all elevate cortisol, which directly feeds visceral fat accumulation. This is why people often notice belly growth during stressful periods even when they are eating less. There is a simple physical clue that can suggest visceral fat dominance. When you press into your abdomen, subcutaneous fat feels soft and pliable. Visceral fat creates firmness. The belly pushes outward from internal pressure. It feels dense and resistant. This is not muscle. It is not bloating. It is internal fat crowding organs that were never meant to be compressed. That pressure is your body signaling distress. Traditional fat loss strategies fail against visceral fat because they rely on punishment rather than biological alignment. Starvation diets reduce calories but raise stress hormones. Excessive cardio without recovery increases cortisol. Endless AB exercises strengthen muscles but do nothing to the fat behind them. These methods treat visceral fat like subcutaneous fat. It is not. Visceral fat responds to internal signals, not external suffering. To eliminate visceral fat, the internal environment of the body must change. That environment is shaped by inflammation, oxidative stress, hormone balance, insulin sensitivity, and nutrient availability. One of the most important drivers of visceral fat accumulation is oxidative stress. Oxidative stress occurs when the production of free radicals exceeds the body's ability to neutralize them. These unstable molecules damage cells, disrupt mitochondria, and impair metabolic signaling. Visceral fat thrives in oxidative environments. When cells are damaged and inefficient, the body stores energy internally as a protective mechanism. Visceral fat acts as a buffer, absorbing excess energy when normal storage pathways fail. The more oxidative stress present, the more the body relies on visceral fat as a survival strategy. Removing oxidative stress removes one of the primary reasons visceral fat exists in the first place. One of the most powerful tools for reducing oxidative stress comes from compounds called carotenoids. These are pigments found in plants that give vegetables their deep red, orange, and green colors. Carotenoids integrate into cell membranes and protect them from oxidative damage. Unlike isolated antioxidant supplements, carotenoids work within the body's natural systems, reinforcing cellular resilience. Carotenoids do more than neutralize free radicals. They influence gene expression. They activate genes involved in fat oxidation and suppress genes associated with fat storage. This effect is particularly strong in visceral fat tissue, which is highly sensitive to inflammatory and oxidative signals. When carotenoid intake increases consistently, visceral fat becomes metabolically unnecessary and the body begins breaking it down. This is why food color matters. Beige foods such as refined grains, sugars, and processed carbohydrates provide energy without protection. They increase oxidative stress while offering little in the way of nutrients. Vibrantly colored vegetables do the opposite. They deliver protective compounds that repair cellular damage while signaling the body to reduce dangerous fat storage. This is not about eating less food. It is about eating information-rich food. Another critical component of visceral fat reduction comes from plant polyphenols found in tea leaves. Certain compounds in green tea enhance fat oxidation by increasing the body's sensitivity to fat-burning hormones. They also inhibit enzymes responsible for fat absorption, reducing how much dietary fat enters circulation. This dual action makes green tea uniquely effective for internal fat reduction. These compounds work synergistically with natural caffeine. Caffeine increases energy expenditure and mobilizes stored fat. Polyphenols ensure that mobilized fat is actually burned rather than recycled. This creates a metabolic environment that favors visceral fat loss without extreme stimulation. The effect is subtle but cumulative, building over weeks rather than days. The form of tea matters significantly. Sugary bottled teas cancel these benefits entirely. Whole leaf preparations provide much higher concentrations of active compounds. Consistency matters more than quantity. Regular intake reinforces metabolic signaling and supports long-term change rather than short-lived spikes. Movement is the final pillar. Exercise affects visceral fat differently than it affects body weight. Moderate intensity cardiovascular movement is especially effective at targeting internal fat stores. This type of movement improves insulin sensitivity, increases mitochondrial density, and lowers chronic inflammation. It also reduces stress hormones when performed at appropriate intensity. Intensity control is critical. Extremely intense exercise performed too frequently raises cortisol and impairs recovery. Very low-intensity movement fails to challenge metabolic systems. The optimal zone lies between these extremes. This zone stimulates fat oxidation while maintaining hormonal balance. The talk test provides a practical way to identify this zone. When movement allows full sentences with slight breathlessness, the body is operating at an intensity that maximizes visceral fat oxidation. This intensity promotes fat use without triggering excessive stress responses. It is sustainable, repeatable, and effective. Consistency outperforms intensity. 2 to 4 sessions per week sustained over months outperform sporadic extreme efforts. Visceral fat responds to repeated signals of safety, nourishment, and movement. When those signals are consistent, the body releases internal fat gradually and efficiently. Starvation undermines this process. Severe calorie restriction signals danger. The body responds by conserving energy and protecting fat stores. Metabolism slows. Hormones shift. Visceral fat becomes more resistant. Nourishment combined with movement sends the opposite message. Energy is available, and storage is unnecessary. Protein supports metabolic rate and tissue repair. Colorful vegetables reduce inflammation. Strategic movement activates fat-burning pathways. Together, these elements reshape the internal environment. Visceral fat loses its purpose and is dismantled. As visceral fat decreases, improvements extend far beyond appearance. blood sugar stabilizes, energy levels rise. Sleep quality improves, mental clarity sharpens. These changes reflect reduced inflammation and improved metabolic flexibility rather than simple weight loss. Belly fat is not a personal failure. It is a biological response to specific signals. Change the signals, and the response changes. The body is adaptive, intelligent, and constantly responding to its environment. The solution is alignment, not punishment. Provide the body with signals it evolved to respond to, and it will correct course. Dangerous belly fat is not permanent. It is reversible. This process does not require perfection. It requires consistency. Small daily choices compound into powerful biological shifts over time. When the internal environment changes, the external appearance follows. The belly flattens not because it was attacked, but because it was no longer needed. The body always prioritizes survival. Once survival no longer requires internal fat storage, it lets it go. Understanding this changes everything. Belly fat stops being an enemy and becomes information. If this video helped you understand your body on a deeper level, support the channel by liking and subscribing. More importantly, support your health by giving your body the signals it has been waiting for. If this video inspired you, make sure to like, subscribe, and share to family and friends. And also, if you require any video related to health, just do comment.